These ASMR vids are so relaxing. Skin getting all tingly. Oh, keep the rain, please. Welcome back to 366weirdmovies.com, our own Pod 366 supplemental channel here on YouTube, the Weird View Crew, where we are currently endlessly picking out movies from the reader suggestion queue to find out if they belong on our list of the weirdest movies ever made. And today we have our first video anime review here. We're going to do Tamala 2010, A Punk Cat in Space. Despite 2010, the title, it came out in 2002. It's an animated feature, and it's got a wild little bit of backstory behind it that I could barely tease out, so bear with me this time. Okay, we need to lay down our ground rule for anime in the first place. Greg Smalley, the owner of 366 Weird Movies and the Wizard of Weird himself, has indicated that we can't really have a lot of anime movies on the list. Why? Because, well, number one, there's so bloody many of them that they would completely compete everything else out. And the second place, people tend to rate anime a little bit weirder than it actually is. Here in Western culture, that's because we're viewing it through the lens of watching another country's culture, which has its own little ways and in-jokes and stuff. At the same time, it is animation. Animation is supposed to show reality with at least one removal from reality. It's a drawing instead. And you're supposed to be able to draw impossible things that don't exist in animation. That's part of the whole point of animation. So, alright, for instance, take example. I see a lot of reviewers on the internet hone in on that Colonel Sanders marching around. I love the slogan, though. With an axe in his head, and really, that seems kind of random. That seems, if you saw that out of context, you'd say that's just the movie being random for randomness' sake. No, as it turns out, Kentucky Fried Chicken is actually very established in Asia. They actually managed to come out and declare themselves as the official meal of Christmas. Like, it's considered Christmas tradition in Japan to go get a bucket of KFC for the household. How did they do that? Well, with a massive advertising campaign, the same way Coca-Cola convinced you with CGI polar bears that Cokes are a Christmas tradition. Gotcha again. So, you see, when we're showing Colonel Sanders with a hatchet in his head, that's really nothing more than your average internet meme in Western culture showing, a flaming McDonald's sign. Whatever. So, poking fun at fast food mascots, it's very old, man. It's done on both sides of the Pacific, so why is it weird when only Japan does it? Okay? In order to track down this, I've done a little bit of internet detective work, and I swear the mystery behind this movie is almost weirder than anything else going on in it, especially the reactions people have to this. It did win the 2003 Fantasia Film Festival Best Animation Award, and it also won the jury prize for Best Animated Feature Film that year. It was apparently directed and written by somebody identifying themselves as TOL, the initials Trees of Life. And the only thing that I can find anywhere to substantiate the existence of this is from an IMDb comment, which is so authoritative that Wikipedia actually cites it as a reference in the article about this movie. That's how little information there is about it. Okay, so TOL is an enigmatic multimedia creative duo, a man and a woman. While they work with animation, illustration, and graphic design, their primary focus seems to be music, and they composed and performed all the music for the film. All of the animation was done by one man. He labored for 4 years animating Tamala 2010. From his comments, it seems like the directors fed him information about story and scenes bit by bit, which he would use to animate segments, and he did not know what was coming next while animating. And really haven't found out much more information about these folks. There's apparently a little art collective running a little cult-like thing going on that produced this entire movie. Anyway, I'm the Weeaboo Man. I'm here for your anime enlightenment, and yes, I'm going to have to be disgustingly condescending this time, because the whole movie really explains itself only in the cultural context of an American weeaboo viewing Japanese culture. It's kind of like a parody of that whole spectrum there, okay? Now, on the other hand, I get to Anime News Network, and their review said the product of an artist group called Trees of Life, Tamala 2010, A Punk Cat in Space, is as strange a thing as you'll ever see. Doubtlessly produced under the influence of past animated head trips, like the Beatles' classic film Yellow Submarine, Tamala 2010 is, without a doubt, something that will only appeal to a very specific audience: art students and college kids strung out on illegal substances. Okay, Anime News Network reviewer, I'm going to offer my thoughts and prayers to you that someday you escape from your prison of meanness and hatred. Okay. Other reviews I found around the internet. Hello Kitty on LSD. Okay, please, if you're still referring to every single strange movie you see as like something on LSD, please explore outside of Hot Topic. I mean, you know, there's a whole world waiting out. It's tactile. You'll thank me later. Okay? I see reviews saying anime by way of David Lynch, which, comparing every strange movie you see to David Lynch is like comparing every funny song you hear to Weird Al Yankovic. Okay, there's other brand names out there. And then I get to the IMDb comment, and it says, another review, it says, it's as if the children of the creators of Yellow Submarine approached Robert Crumb about making Fritz the Cat into a film again, but Crumb angrily turned them down, so they go to the group of Japanese animators to make a cat-themed movie and get a spirit. Philip K. Dick, who's the creative consultant. Sit down, guys. Sit down before you hurt yourselves. Really, let Weeaboo Man handle this job, okay? We're going to put on our furry ears, and we're going to find out what's going on, objectively, okay? All right. My precious cosmic blueberries. Inhale. Take in the oxygen that is the bounty of Gaia's love. Now exhale it. Now say to yourself, I will not overthink things. This is a story about a cat named Tamala. She has a human adopted mother on her cat Earth world, but wants to discover who her true mother is. Tamala is convinced that her answers lie in the constellation Orion, so she sets out in a spaceship to fly there. But she's knocked askew and lands on planet Q, where she'll spend most of our story. She settles down in Hate City on planet Q. It sounds like a Talking Heads song. Where dogs and cats, sorta coexist. Tamala meets another cat, Michelangelo, and the two form some kind of platonic relationship. Along the way, they learn about a cult of Minerva and Tatla. But one day, an encounter in Hate City has them clashing with a brutal canine cop who chases them down and apparently kills Tamala while Michelangelo is helpless to stop it. Mike grieves his heart out until a lecture plus a visit from an all-seeing, immortal oracle informs him that Tamala is actually an artificial avatar of the AI goddess Tatla, invented by an ancient cult that worships the goddess Minerva. Tamala was just created to be a corporate brand for Caddy & Company, a universal monopoly that controls everything. She is, in fact, immortal since she's a created character. Sure enough, Tamala is then shown revived. And in absolutely no reaction to the apparent trauma she's just been through, she simply heads off with the constellation of Orion again. There, was that so hard? Y'all still here? Like you expect something more? Okay. First of all, this is a musical movie. It's based more like 1981's heavy metal. Maybe if that helps you think of it as a series of vignettes, it's kind of like that. Second, it's right there in the title, punk. Say what you will about cultural translations, but the Japanese understand punk, and they love it. And this has a punk sense of humor. This is a stylistic parody of Pan-Pacific culture, including an Americanized view of Japanese culture with its odd fixation on things like furries. Yes, it pokes fun at Hello Kitty and Astro Boy. The same way The Simpsons' Krusty the Clown is a parody of Bozo the Clown, and Sideshow Bob is a parody of Howdy Doody's sidekick Buffalo Bob. Again, why is it only weird when the Japanese do it? But wait, there's more. Here's your South Park joke. In fact, the whole film is one big pastiche of intersected parodies, in-jokes, and satires of pop culture media, ranging from corporations that expand to take over the universe in a dystopian universe, space adventures, kawaii culture, and kinks. There's a whole disturbing subplot where the canine cop owns a pet mouse in what has to be the most sadomasochistic depiction of pet ownership ever. In the end, the cop gets driven out of his doggy mind by the Minerva cult conspiracy, while the mouse, named Penelope, joins Tamala on her further adventures. So that sort of sorts itself out. The story's told in a kind of disjointed fashion, though. There's also these odd breaks in the story to fly off into fantasies, such as a brief short sequence prominently titled A Little Bit of Joy. There's also the part where Tamala falls asleep playing video games and dreams of an attempt to fly to Orion. A prophetic dream, as it turns out. There's the jolting 3D sequences showing this giant fembot Minerva ascending what I could swear is a map rendering using a Quake 3 engine or something as it assembles itself. For a film animated by one person for 4 years, I can see where every day of that effort went. I appreciate a graphics artist who says, I will realize the vision in my head if I have to download all of the software on Earth. Freeze the frame of this movie anywhere and look at all the background jokes. The first time I watched it, I had to pause until I'd surveyed Mike's entire bookshelf. As that lone IMDb comment claims, the business with Caddy and Company being an ancient conspiracy hiding a cult was borrowed from the Thomas Pynchon novel The Crying of Lot 49. You got me, guys. I never read Pynchon. I'm sorry. I know. I'll put myself to bed without any supper tonight and think about what I've done. Pynchon is on my reading list, okay? I'm busy. Anyway, I get the gist of this movie, and even though I only saw the subtitled version, it hardly matters because the movie's dialogue is pretty minimal anyway. I still see where this film isn't for everyone. For one thing, the undead guy's speech to Mike goes on forever, 10 minutes of film time, stopping the whole movie dead in its tracks. Even though the meandering style makes it seem like this movie doesn't know what it wants to be and some bits will just fly over our heads anyway, the film holds up surprisingly well some 22 years later, especially with themes of dystopian isolation and a corporate hellscape. And, well, it is a bit pretentious in its artiness, but what do you expect from a tiny cult producing a passion project? Not that I know anything about leading an art collective cult to produce crazy little offbeat niche productions. Is Tamala 2010, A Punk Cat in Space, a weird movie? I'm not making a strong recommend for it. It is a unique work. Surely no other movie is quite like it. It's a one-man animation show and a one-couple soundtrack. The story is as indie as ever. However, let's not pretend that this movie's ideas never occurred to anyone else before. The basic themes are swiped wholesale from every internet trend that isn't nailed down, and the whole work seems to end up saying nothing except, hey look, we made a whole movie. It is a very good movie, even without considering the shoestring production. I would put it on the shelf next to Sita Sings the Blues. It has that kind of vibe. In comparison to 1981's animated Heavy Metal, Tamala 2010 sure is better at telling stories and has an actual connecting plot. But it ain't no Yellow Submarine, and it's not a David Lynch of anime, and it's not a Hello Kitty on acid. I will concede that as much as Fritz the Cat sucked, this might have been the movie that Fritz the Cat was very well probably trying to be. But still, if you just let the movie be itself, it's just puttering along doing its own thing. In cat movies, as with cats themselves, just because it's intelligent doesn't mean that it always has to make sense.